Thank you, Mark, for joining the My Wave Thought Leadership session with me and Geraldine. Can you introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about your role at Experlogix?
Sure. So I'm Mark Riley, and I'm a principal software architect at Experlogix. And just a quick background on Experlogix will explain who I am more. We're three companies who came together. So we're made up of a document automation software, digital commerce software, and CPQ or configure price quote software. So our target market is in kind of the SMB range of companies, where our company goal is to make the complex simple. And that was true of all three of those solutions before we came together. And part of the reason why we came together was because we were operating in the same space. We didn't necessarily have an overlap of a lot of customers together, but we definitely had a lot of background challenges that were the same around like ERP integration and business processes and stuff like that. I was one of the co-founders of the digital commerce solution. And now in my role, I'm looking at doing kind of that background technical work to bring those three companies together more, but then also looking at partnerships with external companies to help make us better, which is part of the reason why I'm here today.
Fantastic. So we are so happy to have Experlogix as a partner of MyWave. And one of my questions I wanted to ask was, what inspired the partnership between Experlogix and MyWave, and what strategic goals do you have in mind?
Sure. So one of the things that we always did, digital commerce and used to be called AFIX software. We're 10 years in the business now. One of the things that we always looked for were kind of best of breed technologies that we wanted to bring on board because we knew we wouldn't be able to do everything. And some of the early partnerships we did were around marketing automation and things like that, because that's a whole specialist skill by itself. And one of the things we always looked out for were partners where they were looking for partnerships in the ERP space. So MyWave being kind of one of those strategic partners with SAP on the business one side was one of the big kind of check boxes for us. But then also the focus on that business one SMB space and the partnership model where we work in the same partner networks, we're talking to the same partners the whole time. And what we really want to try and do is bring together our digital commerce technology, our CPQ technology, our document automation technology, and leverage MyWave to bring AI to that at the same time. Because if you think about, a lot of our software is highly dependent on an ERP system. So MyWave being so embedded into SAP Business One just gives us that step up where we're not talking to a generic third party. I'll take an example everyone knows, like a SaaS solution like Shopify, where the expectation is it will be the customer who signs up, who just starts using the software. That's not the type of customer base we have. They want to be able to sit down and talk strategy with a partner, and that partner wants to be able to have the solutions to bring to them. So bringing to the table, SAP Business One, MyWave, and Experlogix to go, these are all the business challenges you have. Here's how all of these things can fit together. By us partnering with MyWave and making sure we've got a deep integration there as well for our solutions. That piece means we've brought AI into our technology while you guys are also bringing AI into SAP Business One. And that was a really great fit for us versus, the more generic approaches that are out there where you have to do a lot of work and there's no sitting down at a table and figuring out the strategy with someone.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a really good summary. Can you tell me about, with the addition of MyWave over your solutions, how the future of customer engagement looks and what you sort of envision that experience to be?
Yeah. So the really nice thing about what MyWave does, right? There's two sides to this that we really, really like. One of them is behind the scenes for the actual merchant, right? When they come down to, well, what experience do I want to go and drive for my customer? That piece can all be constructed within MyWave, right? And as the customer ends up being trained, as that merchant ends up being trained on how to build those waves, put them together, they can start defining an experience that's for their customer or for their internal staff, right? And the super nice thing about that is that we never really know where our software is going to end up, right? So we've got a very diverse set of customers with a lot of different needs, right? Our product is standard, but what you can do with it is kind of really wide reaching. So to give a quick example, like on the digital commerce side, we've got, of course, customers who just have a warehouse full of stuff that they want to go and sell. But a lot of that then becomes very specialized things that they need to go and sell. So what our software allows you to do is catalog all of that product information. So whether you've got, 60,000 products or we've got a customer with 3 million products, you can categorize all those things to give the customer information as they need it. But then we've also got kind of more, I'm not going to call them strange cases, but unique cases where businesses are offering services on top of the stuff that they want to sell. And that ranges from, kind of calibrating different thermometer units or fridges and things like that to one of our customers. They're actually a national cemetery here in Ireland, right? And one of the things they do is they will run tours because they're an historic site, but they also do funeral bookings and things in the background. Okay. And all of that has kind of implications for SAP Business One in terms of how things go in and production orders and stuff like that. And one of the things that we end up seeing with AI is that when you bring that in, that experience goes from being kind of long, complicated forms to being more of a conversation. Yeah. So with MyWave, you think about, I'm trying to find a fuel filter for a particular type of tractor, or I'm trying to put together a cremation for someone, or I'm trying to calibrate my unit. They're very different experiences with very different questions that need to be asked. Yeah.
Mm,
And if, with a large language model and putting that together, you can do it, but giving that to a merchant to be able to say, well, what are your sentences? What are your customers asking us? Typically, what do they email you with? And we can turn that into a wave so that they can just interact with an agent to automate all that process. So they're not going, through a massive catalog to figure out something, or they're not going through a set of forms to figure out something. We
mm,
see that kind of the engagement solution, as you call it, just completely changing. Where all the multi-step complicated things end up being, I can write you a sentence that would have been an email, and now that turns into an action. So I end up getting the information that I need, and then prompts for the other parts that they mightn't have put in there yet.
fantastic. Brilliant summary, Mark. Geraldine, I might come to you and ask about, MyWave has been identified as agentic AI leader within the field. Can you share a few more examples of other customer experiences that we've done in the past with other clients and partners?
Yeah, I think that the key thing with agentic AI is that, and it's a little bit of a new term, but if you think about the whole sort of hype around generative AI has been typically a lot of the publicity has been around large language models. But large language models on their own don't actually do the work. They derive intent, like what the customer wants to do, or reading a piece of paper, or vision, or creating content. Agentic AI is the AI agent that actually does the work and performs an activity or a function, and it's not at the task level. It's not a robotic process automation, which automates a task, right? I'm a robot, I do one thing. An agentic AI is able to actually decide what it wants to do on that task and can work autonomously, either with a human or without a human. So if you think about that, that means that then when a customer is coming to a website, for example, in the case of what we've been talking about with Experlogix, whether it's B2B or direct to consumer, the AI agent now can act on behalf of the consumer or the end customer to get them exactly what they want, operating within the parameters of what the company is allowing the AI agent to do. So it is an intelligent employee that can work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, doesn't need to be paid overtime to be able to serve that customer in that channel. It can also then perform the work of the internal employee and take it all the way through from what the customer wants, all the way through to updating an SAP system to be able to then record it in an appropriate way and get it picked and get it shipped. And you can decide whether you want a human in the loop to do that work, or there is no human in the loop, because you've transformed the nature of human work. And so what we've done with the Innovation Hub that we've released for partners is to allow them now to build these AI models, these agentic AI models that do the work, combined with an LLM linked to any backend system. So we can link these to SAP. We obviously are now dropping the logic, the MyWave into Experlogix, so that Experlogix then can now do more things. And so the AI agent can act on behalf of the end customer, whether it's B2B or consumer, or then internally in the employee. And the reason why this is so important is that the biggest fear that companies in the world have today about Gen AI is that it hallucinates and that you can't predict it, because the LLM is what they call probabilistic. It hallucinates. But MyWave never hallucinates. The agentic AI models are actually, you design the conditions, the guardrails of those algorithms under the company control, which means that you always get everything you want accurately 100% of the time, even when an LLM does make a mistake. MyWave actually knows what the process should be because it's been trained through prompts, and that prompts means that it will catch it and then will ask the customer or the employee the question if something is missing for it to be able to perform its task. And this is the exciting opportunity we have to completely transform the way in which people interact. And what we're finding in terms of benefits is that we are saving either employees or customers between 60 and 70% of their time to get anything done. Now, if you think about that, are they going to use that 60 or 70% of the time to go down to the fish and chip shop? Probably not. Well, we hope not. They're probably going to use that 60 or 70% of their time to go and do more meaningful, higher value added tasks inside the company. So it's not taking away human work entirely, it's transforming the nature of human work. And that's why we're excited to work with Experlogix, because we want to take those capabilities all the way out into the channels and facing the customers, which is what we're doing together with obviously working with Business One.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think just building on that one for a second, though, I mean, one of the kind of core philosophies of the digital commerce team, right, that I'm always instilling is that in that B2B space, when someone arrives on the website, they have a job to do, right? I need to get in and out as quickly as possible, which is a little bit counterintuitive when you think about a shop, right? But that's one of the things that the users of our e-commerce sites actually love, is that it's so quick to get in and get out, right? And if you're coming in and you're doing a reorder, it's very quick. That's kind of one button and you're done. If I've got a spreadsheet of stuff, I upload it, my order is in, I'm done. When I have a complicated order to do, this is where things start to get tricky, because, like, you know, in the case where we've got 3 million parts and I need to go and figure out, well, I need to service a Massey Ferguson 3800 series tractor. There could be 15 different parts that I'd need to get that done, and I may not know what they are. But with that Gen model and that whole idea of I want to be able to get in and figure out what they are, we can start training that piece to go, right, my prompt for this is I need to service a tractor model. We know what the regular items you need for that are: spark plugs, other things. I don't service tractors, so I don't quite know, but I know that's a case that this exists on. And then we start taking action on it, right? So that could be place that order straight away, or it could be add it to my cart, right? So I've now gone from having to go into, 10 different categories, checking a filter compatibility model, to just talking to it, getting in, getting out as quickly as possible. When you have that type of experience, that end customer who ends up being the person buying this, they're going, right, well, what's the quickest way I can just get my job done, get this order done, and get back to the other things that I'm behind on? That whole MyWave experience to get that done, and making sure that, in the MyWave Innovation Hub, when you end up going into it, that the merchant is the one driving those guardrails in terms of what they're saying and what they're doing, means the language can be very specific to what that industry is. Yeah. And that's one of the things that we're really excited about doing. So getting this into that end customer's hands to keep that philosophy going of, I have a job to do. I need to get in and out. I'm not here browsing 400 types of spark plugs, right? I need to know which one I need to order, and I need it shipped as soon as possible. So I need that order in as soon as possible. And that's where this stuff can be really powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. I know, I think we've touched on the idea of speed, the idea of productivity, the things that AI will bring to the customer experience and that engagement level. Is there anything else that you would like to add in terms of what MyWave would bring to Experlogix that you can see in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, so one of the key things, one of the things that we always come up against, right, is we've got a really great field service app, right, as part of that digital commerce suite, where it's really quick with kind of taking offline orders and having a catalog available to you and having order history available to you. But where it's always falls short and where we haven't found a really good partner is in field service, right? So the example before of having to, like, service a machine, for example, right? Or go and book in a calibration of something that needs to happen. We've seen a lot of customers trying to come up with the form that they have to build to be able to collect all that data. And as soon as they end up building their form and give it to the rep who wants to go out and get their sales commission over booking a service call. They just don't like using it, right? It's really frustrating to be either standing in front of a customer and having to fill out a giant form, or scribble down some notes and then come back to a computer and start filling out that form. Where we think this part is going to add a whole load of new functionality rather than optimizing an existing one is that kind of service call stuff that needs to go in, right? Because again, on the MyWave side, you're in the innovation hub and you're building out what your workflow is going to be, what your prompts are going to be. So you can build out that whole conversation with the rep about what is it that I need to actually go and service to be able to get that into a production order and get the guys out who need to do the service or take the item away at the same time because you've got your requisition number at that time, to bring all that stuff back. So one of the missing parts to our stack, in terms of making the complex simple, is that field service piece, right? And whether it's a return, whether it's a warranty thing, whether it's a service call, we think this like agent that you can talk to is going to completely transform that experience, right? And even though you guys haven't built a field service app, you've now given us the capability of doing that, right? Because it's linked to Business One, it's got all that data, we've got all the customer context stuff. Bring all those things together, you can start driving out what those experiences are, and we don't have to build the idea of what that journey looks like, because what that journey looks like is what you put into the innovation hub in MyWave.
Absolutely. And Geraldine, I think while Mark's taken a really good segue from service call as a preceded use case on the Innovation Hub, can you speak a little bit more about the MyWave Starter Pack and how partners are able to edit and extend those models that we've created?
Yeah, well, what we did was because generative AI, agentic AI is new. Together with SAP, when we sat down and planned this release for Business One, we knew that we needed to showcase examples of what you could do with it. So we sat down with people like Rainer Zinno and Simona Morenci and others at SAP, and we went through a voting process, and we got customers to vote, and we got partners to vote what would be useful. And originally we came up with 10 ideas for starter pack, and we ended up narrowing it down to 7 ones that we could bring through. And we have found really, really good uptake for starter pack. So things like that service call one, ones like mass master update was another one. The manage my expenses is an interesting one, because there you've got a large language model reading paper. So paper now no longer is a thing. The horrible old OCR thing that we used to deal with. Side by side now, you can read train tickets and then basically put them into your expenses straight away. Now, what we've done for this release coming out this month in August is we've extended it so that you can now do side by side now on any paper. Could be accounts payable invoices, accounts receivable invoices, and this is using the SAP Docs Premium Extraction, which is that large language model that reads any paper document, feeding that straight into MyWave. So the partners can now create any of these side by side, and that will be coming out at the end of August in the next release on the Innovation Hub. So we've got partners now signing up. So I think we posted last week in a similar timeline, actually, congratulating Cloud for Partners, where they did a sale of 10 customers, I think over a couple of days with Starter Pack. And so the customers are very keen. What we have noticed, though, and I asked the person, Julie from Cloud for Partners the other day, what was her secret? How did she do the sale? And she really didn't even talk about AI. She said, "Are you interested in AI?" So the customer says, "Yes." And then she just talked what it can do for you in business language. So she didn't talk in technical terms. And when I listened to her talk in business language about how it saves them time, it makes things easier, this is what it can do in simple business terms, the customer said, "Yeah, I want that." So I think the key thing is to remember that AI is not sort of some magic lantern either. You've got to just describe in very simple business terms what it can do for you. So I think that's the other key thing as well. Keep the language simple.
Yeah, absolutely. Agree. Mark, is there anything else you would like to add about your thoughts, visions, or what you see the potential of MyWave and Experlogix looking like?
I think one of the important things to remember here is that this is still day 0 of AI, right? We are at the very start of what happens here. And where this is going to be in 5 years, I don't think anyone's going to be able to really predict, because I think lots of things are going to be shaken up here. And a lot of people are just, focused on generating images or chat GPT or stuff like that, which are great and powerful and maybe a bit more fun than productive sometimes. But where we start seeing the practical implementations of this, so we've got, my way of taking a really strong stab at this to be able to narrow right down to what it is you guys are doing, right? Taking the advantages of all the new technologies that are out there for it, and then giving it a practical application. Yeah, that this goes beyond just the hype of AI, which a lot of companies get lost in. That we have to do something on AI, and the something ends up being it will generate you an image that you may or may not find useful in the end, right? But when we see the practical application of the stuff that you can do today, and knowing that today is just day zero, I'm very excited to be on a path with it, right? Like the stuff you guys are talking about there in terms of bringing in any document and recognizing the stuff that's in it. Again, we're still at day zero for all this stuff, right? And just like sometimes we don't know where some of our solutions are going to be deployed, like we've got kind of the document automation guys are in the US courts, and the CPQ guys are in so many different industries. Trying to get a segmentation of where it's good is really difficult, because it applies to so many of them. But when you start applying a practical implementation of AI on top of that, you guys won't know exactly where my wave is going to end up either. When you start getting these case studies out and people start seeing what you do with it, I don't think it's going to be the technology we're going to be talking about. It's going to be the user experience we're going to be talking about, right? Because the technology behind this is really solid. I don't think we've all figured out yet where it can be applied, how it can be applied, how much we can push this. And that's why I think we're still at day zero. Let's figure out what day one looks like. Get customers on board, have them using it, have them dream up and pushing this stuff to the limits, because then all of our clever developers will start trying to outpace what people are trying to do with it and catch up to them. I think it's very exciting. This is one of the most exciting times in tech since like the iPhone was invented, right?
Yeah.
We went from staring at laptops to now staring at our phones, and they're rarely out of our hands. Where AI is going to transform all this, I don't think anyone knows. What we might have an idea what day one's going to look like, what day two is going to look like, no idea. It's very, very exciting, and I'm loving the stuff that's coming out of my wave. I'm loving the stuff that allows us to do. I'm loving the stuff it's allowing partners to go and do. It's very exciting.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's very well said. And I think if I was listening to Christian Klein, the CEO of SAP's Sapphire presentation, and I think he has an interesting vision. I think we need to view the world through the lens of AI first. So I think that if you think about it, 80% of the boomer generation are retiring in the next decade. The current generation will not want to now go through and use old-fashioned menu hierarchies. So we need to transform that nature of the human-machine interface, really. And I think that there is a vision even inside SAP by 2027, 2028, the menu interface is going to change. Fiori tiles, I'm not going to be good enough. The way in which you can now type into an interface and have that interface understand what it is, or drop a document into it, and it will understand what that document is, and then trigger then the next intelligent actions and the next outcomes. That is transformational. And that is, I think, where the real benefits come. And the interesting thing is that it can come to any system. So what we've done with MyWave is we have made that ability on any system of record, whether that is SAP, whether that is, we've just uploaded the Acumatica APIs, the Sage APIs are in there now, Salesforce is coming in, even ServiceNow APIs are coming into the Innovation Hub. Why? Because we're going to be actually putting agentic AI on all systems of record. We were on this morning doing banking waves with Tessellate on Finastra technology for banking. So it's coming everywhere. So yes, we're at day zero, rapidly moving. The speed at which this technology is now being adopted is probably going to be if it took 20 years for the enterprise ERP to emerge and take over the world, my prediction is that this will take less than a decade to do the same thing. So it's going to move at double the speed. It's already moving at double the speed.
Absolutely. Well, thank you both. I really appreciate the time for the My Wave Thought Leadership session. And yes, we will do a follow-up to see where Experlogix journey goes in the next couple of months and see if we can do a customer case study. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Looking forward
Yeah,
to it.
we've got plenty of them in the hopper. So looking forward to doing one with you as well, Mark.